What did I teach you?
You are Duke of New York. You're A #1.
I can't hear you.
You are the Duke of New York. You're A #1.
Hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody's in good health, inshallah. Word. Just able to be around. We got a week between now and the Gathering of the Masters event. Put on by Brother Rich out of ATL and Stone Press. So everybody out there who can definitely swing through, inshallah. Anybody got any questions about anything before we start? So much crap going on. They aired out your girl the other night. The black woman put the nail in the coffin for Shorty, and now her white baby daddy getting exposed. Pulled a Schwarzenegger, got the nanny pregnant, had the baby. You know what I mean? So he looking crazy. He got out here looking crazy already. Mr. Emhoff. Which shows that she has a pattern of being with dudes that was already married. So she's a career adulteress, as Judge Joe Brown was saying. Judge Joe Brown aired her out like 2 years ago. So it was pretty much a wrap. But we'll see. These niggas always got a plan up their sleeve, so who knows? Anybody have any questions about anything before we get into it? There's always so much going on, They desperate. They're about to let Vibes Cartel out. Just so he could get a Drake feature. Like it's they in scrambles. They scrambling. Trying to figure whatever they could figure out, man. Trying to get something popping. Too bad for them. Yeah, it's definitely a clown show, definitely. Yeah, God, this nigga flexing on the gram with his bleached out ass. Like this what these niggas be on, man. That's who they love. Just like I noticed, they got some new grift with rappers going on now, where all of these rappers is allegedly exposing and running down pedophiles. Have you seen this? Have you seen this new grift they got going? I knew the fix was in when they had the game on there doing that shit. I was like, oh, this is definitely some hoax shit. As much as that nigga, as much as he known for all of that, you know what I mean? Allegedly with the little girls and shit. Like, man, that shit seemed crazy. Like, yeah, y'all trying to make this a flex. Like, this is not something y'all should make content out of. Like, you know what I'm saying? It don't seem, some seem weird about, like, had Little Pump on there doing. I was like, Little Pump? Like, what the fuck is this nigga doing with catching predators? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what? I heard they fronted Quavo like 300 bands or 30 bands or something to do it, and then he stiffed them. He took the money and then show up. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a lot of stuff, crazy shit like that going on right now, and it just seemed real like they kind of scrambling to figure out like what they gonna do because the walls is closing in on them. You know what I mean? November's around the corner and they don't have anything. They don't have it sold up like they think. Like one of the things that came out was that this chick or these DNC stooges, they be because they knew they couldn't fill up the arenas and all of that, so they using AI to make it look like more crowds. The crowds is bigger at her events. And then on the other side of that, they be going into the home. They be going into like the homeless places, like where a lot of homeless people at, and they be putting them niggas on buses and bringing them niggas in and shit, giving them signs and shit, standing in the back. So they busting in homeless people. They using AI to make the numbers look bigger. Like it's not good. This don't look good for them the way that they want. So most of that shit is hype. And then when the black woman came out and put the smackdown on Shorty, this bitch said, well, we should ask Mr. Willie Brown's wife what she think about the black family. Like, oh, that was like the ultimate diss record. Like she you know what I'm saying? Like she straight like kind of played up. It was incredible, you know. Cause the only way you fight fire is with fire. So, you know, they like, well, we got our own black women, you know what I mean? You thought Candace Owens, that was it? Like, nah, we got our own shorties that don't like this bitch, you know what I mean? And you gotta remember, man, she got a lot of people locked up. And like I told you, remember I told y'all, I say, yo, the only people that's gonna be pumping this chick is gonna be like the black sorority niggas, right? The black sorority chicks, right? The boule, and the white gay liberal alphabet people. And I was right. Like this is a dude on Facebook, man. This dude's just going in with the Kamala promotion, and I'm just like, it's just point. It was just annoying. Like, yo, you really like they really got batteries in y'all niggas' backs, man. Y'all niggas is just really pumping this chick, like. And there's no policy. There's no talk of policy. No talk. And then what people don't understand too. This is how I know people stupid. The people don't understand either is that she is the vice president now. If she wanted to do something to get people on her side voting or whatever, she could do something now. Why are you telling me you gotta wait till you become president to do some shit that you can already do as the vice president? That's the shit that be bugging me out. I'm like, bitch, you already got the job. You in the job now. Like you're in it now. You know what I'm saying? Like you're already there. You're already in there. So what you talking about? You gotta wait to do so. What? Wait till Joe die? Like, come on now. This is your boy. This is who. This when you was in the primary and you was debating this nigga, you talked about how much of a racist he is. Then you turn around and you join this nigga. So it's like, what does that say? And then I'm still trying to figure out how they trying to make her into this black female icon. Like when did any of this happen? How do you do that? How do you create a circumstance like that and then you able to get away with that where you got people talking about, well, you know, she's a quarter black and you know the one drop rule. The one drop rule, isn't that the rule created by the white supremacists niggas? So okay, so now it's okay to follow their rules. You know what I'm saying? Like now they're quoting the one drop rule and I'm like, what? The one drop rule? Y'all just be moving. I'm like, okay, so you could just be, so you could be black adjacent. You could just be black because you went to an HSBCU. So by that account, that means all of the white girls that y'all act like y'all don't like that's in these HSBCUs now. All of these white girls, these is the ones that so they black now too, right? What's good for the goose, good for the gander. They white too. I mean, they black too now, according to y'all logic, because she went to Howard or Spelman or whatever the hell. Like, it's ill to me, like how they be really flipping it. Like, they be moving this goalpost to make this chick something that she obviously ain't. Her father did a whole video or interview, and he was talking about how he was proud of the slavery ancestors, of the fact that his ancestors owned slaves and shit like that. Because these was Indians who got kicked out of India because when the British was over there doing their thing, kicked them out, and then they came slavers, and then they came over here and started enslaving people in the colonies in Escamaica, what they call Jamaica now. And this nigga was talking about how he proud of that legacy and all of that. So again, when I say we Moors, we used to put in work with the Slovaks and was enslaving and all of that. How come we evil, but he not? You know what I'm saying? Like this the hypocrisy. This is why none of the stuff that these niggas be talking work, because everything they say is a damn lie, and all they do is pump up, like the melanated chick that got beat up by Trump on the interview the other day, when he was like, "Yo, I didn't know she was I thought she was Indian last time I checked." And then what is Black Twitter? What they doing? They hopping up. Oh, she really put it down on him. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. She looked like a hypocrite. To me, this is what I'm seeing. And again, I'm not even pro-Trump like that. I'm just pro-Republic. So whoever gonna do more for the Republic, I'm down with. You know what I mean? Because the Republic is the gateway back to the Empire. You know what I'm saying? Is the tributary to the Empire. So that's who I'm down with. That's what I'm supporting. So I just find it just so incredible to watch these Negroes just try to put in so much work for something that they really have no depth of perception as to how they're being used. It's just that's how you know that those installations were always military-based installations. They were always there to mind control and to dumb down and to put the original people in debt, because that's all they've ever done, man. And to garner a certain anti-melanated family thinking that has become the basis of modern thought. Like, it's wild. That's why I be saying, y'all, we can't be arguing with these people. We can't be out here trying to get them to see shit that they regardless to what you say, they not gonna do it. If they can censor a so-called assassination of a president, then what make you think they can't touch up your death, God forbid, or somebody you love death, and just censor that or act like that never happened, or like it's crazy, like with the Sonia Massey shit. You don't think that's a coincidence? Like, as soon as they need something to take away from the fact that they tried to pull a John F. Kennedy on a nigga the other day, then right after that they got to pull a race card. They need a race death. That just came out of nowhere. And then like I said, it's always somebody that they know. They noticed the chick knew the pig who shot her or whatever. His girlfriend know her. His girlfriend knows her. You know what I'm saying? So it's some wild shit going on, man, all around, and these niggas is acting like it's all good, like it just ain't supposed to. You know what I mean? Like, this shit is just regular. Like, nah, y'all, nah. I'm trying to house a dragon and shit, man. You know what I'm saying? Y'all doing something else, man. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my little thing on that. I just find it funny that now the fever is starting to wear off and people starting to wake up like, wait a minute, this wasn't none of this stuff before. And she like Drake, she just pulling out accents. You know what I'm saying? She just pulling out southern accents and shit. Like, but then again, like I said, I just saw you in an interview and you was talking about how you. And then she did an interview with this chick named Mindy Kaling. For y'all don't know who Mindy Kaling is, she's a real self-hating, dark-skinned Dravidian chick. Like, this bitch hate herself. And she always do movies and TV shows and all of this about how great white people are. And she always fawning over a white man and shit like that. So she did a whole interview with her where they was making Indian food, and they was just all talking about how she grew up eating, the yogurt, the Indian yogurt and all this other shit. So it just bugged me out when all of this other stuff started coming out. You know what I'm saying? All of this fake hype shit. So like I said, man, we just gotta keep our eyes on the prize and understand what's really going on, man, because none of this stuff is really what they saying it is. It's all part of the script. You know? So yeah. So one of the things, yes, that's right. Dan, Mindy's brother was that white man, was that Indian dude who faked that he was so-called black or so-called African American so he could get the scholarship. And based on that, like 3 other people that was supposed to get their scholarship didn't get it because they liked his story better and he looked more black Indian. Come to find out, he's straight Indian. So he Jussie Smollayed his ass into a whole grift where he went to school for free, playing like he was a melanated person. So this is what I'm saying, man. These niggas be straight playing. They be straight grifting off this black shit, man. Yeah, then they make jokes. Right. Just how Kamala was talking about how much weed she smoked and how much Tupac she was listening to in college after she done locked up a whole generation of so-called black men. Then they trying to say that that's not even real, that she didn't even do that, that she actually made laws to get niggas out of jail. What? You bugging. Ask anybody that was locked up in the last 18 years, that in the last 10 years when that bitch was in there. That's not the narrative on her. Y'all can't switch that now. Just like they were saying, oh, she wasn't in charge of the border. Yes, she was. I saw y'all shitting on her on CNN. Saying how she ain't do nothing for y'all niggas at the border on CNN of all places. That's like Snoop at the Olympics with the Baphomet chain on, acting like he don't know what that symbolized, and you still doing it. Or worse, at the Olympics, they got the fix in on all the black athletes. They made Sha'Carri and them walk a whole mile, and then made her do the race, right? Then the black man, he won the judo competition with 1 kick, and now they gave it to the nigga he beat, saying that the black man hit him too hard. This is after all of the homo stuff and all of the tranny stuff that they was doing at the beginning of the ceremony and all that other shit that got them boycotted. Like it's crazy. Yeah, the black man with 1 kick, 1 judo kick, he won. He kicked the hell out of this dude with 1 kick, and then they said, oh, well, he can't win because he kicked the dude too hard and gave it to the dude he knocked out. Meanwhile, they got the hermaphrodite, the hermaphrodites beating the shit out of women in the boxing match, and everybody's cool with it. Like the same chick that's out here advocating for women is the same one trying to remove the idea of what a woman is from the public lexicon, from people's identity. This is what's so crazy about these people, man. It's a scam. Everything they doing is a scam now, and it's so obvious that everybody is just they can't hide it no more. Nobody believes them. Nobody is following what they saying and shit. You know what I'm saying? It's one big scam. You know what I mean? So they doing as much rituals and as much stuff as possible that they can do to try to like get people to not see it for what it actually is. And none of that's working. None of it's working. Nobody believes them. That's why they so scared. They said, oh, well, she made $81 million. No, she didn't. That was Biden money. She got to give that money back to everybody that gave to Biden. Then if they want to give the money to her, she could do that. So she ain't make all that money. They said, oh, well, the white guys for Kamala raised $1 million. The black chicks on the Zoom call raised $1 million. This nigga Elon Musk is giving this nigga Trump $45 million a day. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? A week or some shit like that. Look it up. Plus the four billion that he made, plus the stock upgrade that he got, the bump in the stock that his shit got after they messed up the head. It's all a scam. These niggas, these niggas is funny now. It is funny, B. And anybody that's toting the line is down with them. If you support Kamala, you down with Biden. You understand? You can't support Kamala without supporting Biden. She's his vice president, nigga. She's not separate from him. What are y'all talking about? And again, who voted for him? The sororities, right? The black feminists, the alphabet mafia, the trans mafia, and the black rock niggas, and these social engineering new world order niggas, i.e. the human traffickers. That's who you supporting. You supporting that if you support her. Period. 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 And again, this ain't got nothing to do with Trump. I'm not saying support him neither. What I'm saying is you got to support the constitutional republic because that's the closest you're going to get to the representative form of government to put you back under a national standard to be able to do what you need to do for your national people under your imperial mandate. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So, like I said, with that, you got a lot of the spiritualism aspects of stuff just coming out the ground. Like, people didn't talk about how they put a dragon at the top of the Empire State Building, allegedly to celebrate the House of Dragon TV show and all of that. But it was interesting because this was up during Gemini, and remember this nigga Drumpf is a dragon Gemini, so that was crazy. This is from a book that y'all should get if you can find it, called A Dictionary of Angels by Donald Overson. It's a great book. And then this is an actual fallen angel, petrified fallen angel that they found in Russia a couple of maybe a year and a half ago. But nobody's seen it since, so you don't know what's going on. But I show this to show basically this is another aspect of image of the pineal organ. It's also an image of the earth and the rings, you know what I mean, around it, and what they refer to as the flat earth and all of that. You know what I mean? But it's really a aspect of the pineal. It's actually the actual image is a painting of Enoch going up into the seventh heaven. But essentially, it's another version of the activation. So that's what I'm saying with the activation of the dragon energy. Dragon energy is what they call Draconian energy. I believe it's either David or Donald Overson. And I was studying angelology It was really good because it got a lot of. It's really dope. You can find the original copy. I beat mine up so bad I gotta find another one over the years. But angelology, dealing with angels and stuff like that, is really dealing with the angles of the light and how the light bands are basically aspects of the activated melanoid genes that are activated through something that they were referring to as the VMAT2 gene, which is the gene that activates the higher self or your connection to everything around you, which allegedly the COVID, the was used to somewhat move you away from that by cutting that off from you. You know what I'm saying? Or cutting off your access to it by manipulating different aspects of the genetic code, which was already proven, but you know, these niggas are still in bed with them, so can only say but so much. You know what I mean? When you're dealing with that. Because ultimately, it's all about our direct connection to that which they tell us that we're not connected to. Like, one of the main reasons why they hate, like, you would think people like the terrorists, like the Muslim Brotherhoods and these types of people, you would think that they would hate original people, or excuse me, hate you know, the deviants and the people who, you know, we would perceive as that, but they actually don't. Like, most of those types of people, they would vote for left-wing, liberal, progressive, far left. They would vote for that type of stuff because those type of communities are more easily to control. If you notice, most of the extremists that come from these so-called Islamic states and shit, they automatically leave. They get kicked out of those so-called Muslim countries, and they wind up in Western countries where the laws and all of that is lax. That's why they're so heavy with the draconian laws out there with them people. You know, with the hijabs and the cutting your hands off if they catch you stealing and shit like that, because they come from that era. Bobby Hemmett, one of the greats in the movement, once talked about the three levels or the three stages of our ancient past in the codex of what they refer to as that, namely coming from what they call a Typhonian, right? So there's a Typhonian, then there is the Obsidian, then there is the Draconian. So the Typhonian era is that which predates what we would perceive as pre-dynastic Egypt. You know what I mean? Or any of the pre-dynastic structures. Anything that started with a dynasty in the super ancient past, this is before that. You know what I mean? And in that Typhonian period, you know what I mean, you're dealing with now, this is even before, you know, they be talking about the Anunnakis and all of that now. You know what I'm saying? They be getting into all of that Anunnaki and all of that type of stuff. The Anunnaki first came into the general conversation lexicon through a dude named Zecharia Sitchin. Zecharia Sitchin did not know how to read cuneiform or Sanskrit or any of that shit. What he did was he got translations of that and then added on what he perceived those things to be. And then he wrote books about it from the perspective of, let's say, glorified science fiction per se. And then the tenets of what he wrote got then translated as if they were actually true. You understand? And then those perceptions then were taken by researchers who came later, who are part of things like the National Science Fiction Association and shit like that. And then they became the basis of what became the foundation of things like 2001: A Space Odyssey and people like Aldous Huxley. Like all of these people, well, Aldous Huxley was a little before Sitchin, but what I'm saying is Isaac Asimov, Aldous Huxley, Orwell, Arthur C. Clarke, Herbert, the guy that wrote Foundation, I forget his name. But all of these guys, they were basically all Freemasons, and they all were also a part of that literary structure, going all the way back to people like Edgar Allan Poe, right? Him, Poe and Lovecraft, and them were the precursors to the Aldous Huxley, H.G. Wells. You understand? And all of these guys are dealing with the ancient Typhonian information that they had found in deep temples, like in what they call Nubia today, which is why they flooded all of that. In the deeper temples that they found in like Tehuacán and Machu Picchu and places like that. Well, this is where all the deep Typhonian shit was. So they couldn't handle that, right? Because when they started trying to translate that now into occultic things, they realized that they needed people like Randolph, people like Prince and Princess Mysteria, and these types of people to be able to get them to understand how to really activate it and use it. But they didn't, but to do that, you had to give them access to it. You see what I'm saying? So they was in a double-edged sword. So once they accumulated enough information from the ones that they had allowed to get that type of knowledge from, right? That's when they started killing them. And then once they killed them, they then took what they did and then put it into books and all of that, occultic books, so that way niggas like Manly P. Hall and the rest of these devils would be able to get access to that and then start, you know what I mean, doing what they could do with it. So this is the basis of where what we perceive as science fiction comes from in the modern context. You see what I'm saying? But they're not going to deal with it like that because they don't want to give us no credit for anything outside of what it is that we've actually created and have been able to maintain, which is basically nothing. Because whenever we are doing something heavy like that, they, you know what I mean, they do what they can to circumvent it, take it over, get us to sell it to them, get sellouts to get the real info, so that way they can figure out how to use it. You dig? So this is where all of this types of heavy information come from. So the Typhonian age is, again, where people like Aleister Crowley and them was dealing with. He was dealing with a lot of Typhonian type magic, a lot of Typhonian entities, or what they would call the Eldritch horrors or the Eldritch gods and shit like that. So this is where he was basically writing his predicts on things like what he referred to as the tunnels of Typhon and all of this bullshit, when really all of that was really about giving them the permission to harm and molest children, because a lot of their magic came from utilizing children and creating what they like, what he referred to again as the tunnels of Typhon, which to them in their backward thinking is the penetration of the rectum, mainly of children. You see what I'm saying? And so that became the basis of how they were able to then compromise a lot of other people by trying to access this magic, by projecting themselves in the mind of the child through the traumatic act, which then opens up a portal that allows them, this is what they believe now, that allows them the ability to exist inside of another vessel for as long as that child lives. And then when, God forbid, that child then turns into somebody who then does that to another child or another person, now they get to leapfrog into that person. You see what I'm saying? By being manifested through the memory of the trauma, which is real to them, which then manifests them as real. That's why when you see certain movies, when traumatic things happen to them, to certain characters, and then the character winds up meeting or talking to the person who basically is a ghost in their mind, right? And then you looking at it like, is this person real, or is this person like in Sixth Sense? The whole time he talking to the ghost. You see what I'm saying? But the ghost seemed real to him because the little boy was traumatized. You understand? So this is how they're able, how they perceive it, how they're able to leapfrog through time. That's why the frog, the golden frog, is another image in the occult that they use and that they worship and put into their sick rituals and shit. So when you hear about them using the word map and hot dogs and walnut sauce and all of this type of shit to describe children in code and shit, the pizza and all of that, like this is how they doing it. You understand? So again, on your screen, you got these images of the hand, right? Because this is the right hand of God, or this is the hand of God, which again is symbolized through the arm, leg, arm, head, right? Which then is the portal of the vessel, right? The vessel being Allah, which is the arm, leg, arm, head, the actual physical manifestation of life, right? Because God perceives man, man perceives God. But in their culture, right? In their culture, when they say God, they're talking about these backwards so-called Typhonian, warped Typhonian deities that actually exist within us. You see what I'm saying? Not the versions that's twisted by them. Now I'm talking about that. I'm talking about the divine aspect or melanated aspect of us being able to live beyond the perceived physical. This is why you can, when they say black don't crack and stuff like that, like they can't date when we actually manifested here in the flesh. They can't do it. But there's a definite time that they say that they came here, which was 6,000 years ago, right? So they saying that the religion of Islam started in with the so-called Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, right? Okay, that's cool. But then how come right here at the Temple of Abydos, you got an image of Allah, which is Alif, Lam, Ha, which again is Allah. How come the Christians in the Middle East refer to God as Allah? How come the Hebrews refer to God as El-Ah? Or the old Canaanites refer to it as Elaha, right? Which is different. You see what I'm saying? Which is different than the one that these so-called pale Arabs, right, is really dealing with. They dealing with a whole nother thing. Okay? They're not dealing with the whole thing that we're dealing with. Now, this is not to say that there aren't people that aren't manifesting, you know what I'm saying, what they perceive as that. But what I'm saying is that in secret, because there's always what they showing you and then what they giving you. What they showing you is not always what they giving you. You know what I'm saying? Because you got the real ones, like I said, the Masonic ones, these ones that feel like they dealing with the Typhonian shit, they feel like that they dealing with the real. So this is why there's such a bloodletting aspect of it when it comes to how extraneous they are with their aspect of worship. Why they'll throw acid in the woman's face, why they'll have public executions, why they'll do shit like that, because they're also dealing with their version of Allah, which is this thing right here. You understand? This is not every so-called Muslim, because the idea of let's say the religion that the so-called Muslims is practicing or dealing with, they're trying to expand their life in what they perceive as the benefits, benevolent or righteous path, unifying, bringing everybody together, right? But then couched in that at the very top, right? Like for instance, in Saudi Arabia, they say everybody's supposed to pray together, right? Then how come the prince of Saudi Arabia and the prince and them, how come they get to go into the Kaaba and all of that whenever they want? How come they escorted by guards and all of that away from everybody else when they go? How come at least 1,000+ people die at the Hajj every year? That didn't used to happen when the Moors was in the tribe of Ben Ishmael was doing their circumambulations around Mecca over here. There was no recorded deaths when they was doing that. Then not to mention that again, then you have the feminine aspect of what they are manifesting, which is Alat, right? Which is the triple moon goddess, who is made up of Astarte, Semiramis, right, and Hecate, right? Who Hecate is one of the demons, one of the demon gods that people like Tentacion, blessed the dead, had manifested on a jail phone when he was getting inducted into it. Look at the interview. There's an interview. He talks all about it. When I got on the phone and he said he had to say the sayings and all of that. And he asked for Hecate to come to him and do what he needed to do. And then a week later, he was out of jail. The week after that, month after that, he was the biggest thing in music. Yeah, because a lot of these so-called, the Jewish scholars they're talking about now, these are now the ones that was dealing with, like I said, bringing this old Typhonian shit into the modern view. Because again, all of these Typhonian gods that I'm speaking about was melanated. All of the people that was bringing this out in the very beginning was all melanated. And then they all, when you think Typhonian, think of the Titans, right? And then they themselves got supplanted by the next wave, right? That was basically their children, right? So these ones wound up going into, so when the Typhonians and all of that got wiped out, or they children basically wanted to now take the throne and take the usurpation, they now changed a lot of the ancient ways of dealing with them, and then the old ones, they had to go. So a lot of them left, went into places like Mesopotamia over there, as well as Mesopotamia over here, right? They went up into places like the Peloponnesian areas, created a society they call Etruria, right? And then from Etruria, you get the Etruscan, and then from the Etruscan, you get the Etruscans. You see what I'm saying? From the Etruscans, then you get the Levantines. Then from the Levantines, you get the so-called Macedonians, the Minoans, the Dorians. See what I'm saying? The Corinthians, these niggas. Then that's what you lump together as Greek culture, right? Greek mythology, right? And then from them, now you get, after they established doing what they doing for 1,000 years, then them same people now got enough power, these Macedonians, right? They go back in where? They go back to Babylon, right? They go back to Babylon at the behest of Hannibal and the Carthaginians in them, who are all kind of connected because they all still following this old Typhonian shit. So they send them all back to Babylon, right? And that's when Alexander the Great take over Babylon, right? And then from Babylon, what do? They take over Egypt, right? And then what they do, they start supplanting everything, switching everything up, burn the library over there, burn the library over here. Then they set up their versions of it, right? This is now going into the Obsidian point. So again, when you think of Typhonian, think of Titans. When you think of the Obsidian point, now think of like Zeus and them, right? Because didn't Zeus and them get rid of the Titans? Saturn and all of them, they got rid of all of them, right? So we're thinking, so now think of this now as epochs of time now. You understand what I'm saying? You're going from the triple stage darkness into now we telling time by the moon, right? So first there's no time. Then you start telling, so basically you're telling time in the dark, right? Then now you're going from that into a new phase. Well, now you're telling time in you know what I'm saying, by like the moon. This is the obsidian phase now. So now this is when they start blanking in the old stuff and then refurbishing it as the new. So the oldest god, right? The oldest one they had was Set, right? They got rid of him and then repurposed him now as Amen or Aseer, who is Osiris. You see what I'm saying? Who is Hades, who is Mephistopheles. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing, but it's a step down version from Set. That's why Set became the bad guy in the Osirian mythos. You understand? That's why Set takes the rap. And now he's the jealous God, right? Who is he's now the version that they can hold on to. You see what I'm saying? They can use him. Osiris now, because now he's the resurrected God. He's now been resurrected from their version or what they seen as the oppression, because they feel like they was oppressed. You understand? That their version of it was oppressed by the Typhonian version, because the Typhonian there was no heavy text and shit like that. You dig what I'm saying? Like there was no heavy text and stuff like that they could go to and do that, because they were it. You understand? So when you talk about the oral tradition and all of that passed down, these were the ones from super ancient times that was actually living the things and then became the gods when they died or when they transcended or whatever. So again, when they talk about the Anunnaki and all of this, they really talk about these types of beings. Who are you in a higher or what may perceive now or lower so-called dimension? You understand? And so these beings now, as they've now been redistributed, right, into the modern context as we understand it now, right? They now being distributed as this now. They now are positioning themselves up to be what we would perceive as the gods. You understand? This is why mankind, or excuse me, man as itself, as it was coming out of this primordial era, right? This is when they decide that, okay, this is how we're going to, again, leapfrog into the future by using these so-called mortal beings as vessels for us to maintain, because at one point these things is dealing in a higher frequency, that frequency that exists that we're aware of but that we can't necessarily perceive in the modern context, because as it says in the Circle 7 Quran, that the finite cannot perceive in full the infinite, the infinite. You know what I'm saying? That's why prayer and faith and these things became such a prevalent thing within our society, because that was a way for them, right, to be able to remanifest themselves into this reality through our belief, through what we don't know but are hoping to perceive. You understand? These books, you can get into a lot of this. Okay? So in this Obsidian era now, this is like I said, when now everything is coming from night into the day. This is the dynastic era now. So now this is, like I said, they taking everything that was old, flipping it, turning it into, you know what I'm saying? Set is now the bad guy. Set is the primordial god. Set, Saturn, right? All of that primordial, Typhonian, giant, right? Nephilim, all of this type of shit. This is where all of this is at. So naturally, that all has to get redistributed after the great cataclysms and stuff, which was the upheavals. So once that happens now in the new modern era, in this dynastic era, now the gods of the old time become the devils in the new. because obsidian is one of the hardest, one of the sharpest crystals in the world. Because obsidian comes what? From lava, right? It comes from cooled lava. And when you sharpen it, it's so sharp, you know what I mean, that the slightest thing will nick you. Also, the term obsidian, right? The Latin beginning of that comes from obsita, and one of the Latin ways to say more is loca fruticitas obsita, right? That's another way to say more. So it's obsidian in that way because they're cutting themselves off from the Typhonian exchange because they can't deal with the enormity of what that is. You know what I'm saying? So they gotta filter it down because now they're trying to create worshipers for themselves. So that way they can be perceived as what this energy is. And now they have that energy in them, but it's not in the purest primordial form. You see what I'm saying? So they got to divest it. So this is when, like I said, the dynasties start. This is when all of the different god caste systems start, right? And then they basically take the same gods and then reconstitute them wherever the melanated people on earth is at. This is where we get the Brahmanas and where we get the technology from the old Dravidians and the Upanishads and all of these types of things. This is where all of this shit is come from. The Bhagavad Gita, right? The Vedas. This is where all of this is coming from. So when you say Vader, like Vader, you saying Vader, like Darth Vader. Darth meaning Doth, right? Which is the black dot, which is the duat, which is the primordial melanated God particle gene, or what they refer to in quantum physics as the singularity, right? This is what they're trying to tap into. So that way they can open up more portals to be able to eventually escape this place when it's their time to go. So from this obsidian time now, we get all the dynasties. We get all of the building of the megalithic structures. We get all of the ritualistic shit. All of this stuff starts, right? Then this is when they start encoding the shit, start to just lay out what the rituals is going to be. And this is when the lesser deities start coming up. The demigods start coming up. This is where you get Heru, right? And then you get Hercules, right? And you get the Hereshef, right? You get all of this type of shit, right? But they're all still dealing with a lot of the wild shit because they still believe that you got to sacrifice to get what you getting, because they believe that the blood is the search engine. And thus the sacrifice is the world engine that allows them to bring this energy to themselves quicker, without actually giving respect or alms to where it truly begins, which is deep within themselves that they've cut themselves off from. You understand? So this is also the era where they start doing a lot of the alchemy and a lot of this bullshit and start creating all these different beings and shit, right? That you read about in the Book of the Giants, where the angels are starting to mate with all of the different animals and shit and start creating minotaurs and leviathans and all of this crazy shit. Cthulhu's and all of that, right? So that doesn't end well for them. So then from the obsidian phase, then you got to get into the draconian phase now, right? The draconian phase now is now the culmination of the first two phases and epochs now. Now we're dealing with the reconstruction of all of these ancient societies that have already reconstructed themselves and cut themselves off from the ability to redeem themselves from the original thought that created them. So now this is where you get the dethroning of Zeus. You see what I'm saying? The dethroning of Odin, the dethroning of Zarabanda. You know what I'm saying? Of Tiamat, of Ahura Mazda, right? This is where all of these obscure deities that are they're around today. Ahura Mazda is Mazda. You know the car Mazda? That's him. You understand? Like, this is how they do it. They just encode it into something that you use every day. So Ahura Mazda in modern times become a Mazda. like a car, which is the vehicle, right? And I said that they're looking for the vehicle to take them where they need to go. That's why all these corporations all have one of these deities that they function under. Didn't they call the blue dye that glows under the light? Didn't they call it Lucifries? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Doesn't the Vatican, they named themselves after Mount Vatica, where who? The Etruscans used to bury their dead, and who are the Etruscans? These are the old Typhonian worshippers. See what I'm saying? None of this shit goes nowhere because you can't get out of a closed system. And Earth is a closed system, whether they want to admit it or not. It's a closed system. So you're not getting out the way that they want you to. And so now in the Draconian age, now we got to really conceal, and we got to put a lot of this shit under wraps, because we don't want these people to find out that all of the stuff that we still got them worshiping these ancient gods. You understand? We still got them worshiping these ancient gods, like, because we're still, by we, I'm talking about them, they're still benefiting from the ignorant energy that comes from people worshiping shit that they don't understand what they're doing. That's still energy given to them to use to their benefit. And so in using that energy, they're able to manifest and build and still create the pathways for them to be able to access this stuff. So some people still believe, in Earth the way that, they perceive, or they've been taught the Earth to be. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't. You know what I'm saying? But whether they do or not, what matters more is the idea that they can get people to give energy to what they want the people to give energy to. You understand? And thus the old energy devices are still there and still have the ability to be using them. Like, y'all know what a Vajra is, right? Elon Musk posted a video a while ago, and it showed like his desk. And one of the things I saw on his desk that was really interesting is that he had a Vajra on there. And when they asked him what it was, he said, "Oh, this is one of the greatest powers in the universe. This is a Vajra." You'll see these when you go to like little festivals and shit. You'll see these just on the Indian people who be selling like beads and like nag champas and shit like that. Some of them, they'll have bells selling them, and then they'll have these. You want to get you one of these and one of them bells. Remember, we did a whole joint maybe a couple of months ago, where I did a whole joint on the bells and how the bells was used and all of that. But if you can get your hand on one of them old joints, especially the ones with the inscriptions and shit on it, get it, take it home, rinse it off with salt, primarily Celtic salt if possible, and water and stuff, right? And tone it with your energy and hold it. This Vajra is an energy dispersion device, and it creates positive and negative ionic fields around you. And they were basically like atom wheels that protect you from shit like this. See these demons in the back? Vajra. Vaj, like vag, and then Ra, like sun. Like one of the biggest, oldest ones, like I said, from the Obsidian age to now, is Amen, the hidden one, right? And at the end of every Christian prayer, what do they say? They say amen, right? So they go through all of that to Yeshua, Hawashah, right? And then at the end of all of that they ask for, they then alley-oop it up to an Obsidian god that's based on a Typhonian god. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, in Jesus Christ we pray, and then they say amen. So who are you really praying to? Whoever's the last name spoken. You understand? So this is like I said, from that Obsidian age, now we get the destruction of the dynasties. We get the raising of all of the old ideas, all of the old paradigms. They get switched up. Nobody dealing with that. Now we got to put it all under a new form, and that's where we get the reconstructed era, right? Of all of the stuff that we see coming into existence. Another example of that would be this. So imagine this face in the middle as the Typhonian, and then these four aspects around it, right? Representing Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, Virgo, right? This would represent the obsidian. Then outside of that, the rings. You see, just like I showed you in the angelic joint. Outside of that now, outside of the outer rings now, we get the rest of it, which again is the Draconian, which is a representation of Draco, which is another representation of Sirius, right? But these are all alchemical processes that exist within you as a primordial being, because again, they can't date when you got here. Which is why they need us to believe that we all came from one part of the globe when we bounced on all parts of the globe simultaneously. Because at one point, the whole thing was together, and we were here for that. You understand? We were here for the whole thing. So they couldn't deal with that because, like I said, they had killed all of the old priests and got the old priests basically to go into different organizations and different groups and high priesthoods and sisterhoods and all of that. And then there was more wars to basically conceal and get rid of that which was destroying the planet. Like I said, one of the greatest evils was the Hereshef, right? Because these niggas was out here sacrificing everybody. Hereshef era is part of the Draconian era, when this is where you get Molech, right? Semiramis and all of these types of things. So much so that they had to be wiped from the records altogether. Where if you talk to any so-called Egyptologists or people like that and you ask them about the Hereshef, they can't really give you any real information on them. Because Amenhotep I and Amenhotep II wiped them out and struck them from the history books. This is how crazy this shit was. This is how many people was sacrificing themselves, sacrificing them children to gain access to this energy that they felt that they could use to be able to manipulate the world. We may think it's crazy. We may think that this is just fake. This is what these niggas is doing today. Why do you think these organizations still exist today? You think they stopped doing shit like this? What you think all of this human trafficking and all of this sacrificing and all of this shit is about? Baphomet is young in the game. That's he young. The goat god is young in this. Before he was Baphomet, he was Khonshu or Khnum. You know what I'm saying? There's people who grow up in this, who grow up in what they call satanic families, which is really just a blanket term to deal with anybody dealing with this type of draconian methodology. You know what I'm saying? This is why this is what they're dealing with. But when you talk about the hoodoo and the voodoo, there's a book you should get called Voodoo Quantum Leap. If you really want to understand the voodoo and the Santeria and the Palo Mayombe outside of being a practitioner. You understand? Because when you're a practitioner, you put yourself under the auspices of what it is like that. You see, that's why they tell you don't be dealing with stuff that you don't fully understand. However, research, right, looking at it from an objective perspective, gives you a bird's eye view of what it is that these people are dealing with. You understand? Because these are real energies. And like I said, these societies that exist today, that all these people are a part of, even the most benign, like even the people who, oh, I'm just in it, you know, because it's camaraderie or fraternity or whatever, anything that you're going through a ritual, you understand, to get into with people you didn't know outside of that, or you didn't know outside of you participating in that ritual or at that ritual. You got to understand the basis of that anything can be intoned in that perspective. You understand? Anything, anybody can be coming through in those perspectives, especially if you don't know these people like that. Because everybody becomes a vessel for everybody's intent. And our ancestors and our peoples and our community, they don't talk to us about intent and the power of intonation and the power of what these things can potentially bring into your life. Because we're taught that it's all a joke. You know what I'm saying? We taught that it's not really real. It's, you know, it's all spookism. Oh, it's just a club. I'm just in it for this. I'm just no, you don't know what you're dealing with. Because if you knew what you was dealing with, you'd have more reverence for it than just something you doing to be able to get cool with niggas. So that way you know you could get out of parking tickets and shit like that. You understand? They love people like that. Those the people that they want the most in this type of shit. You know what I'm saying? Them people, they're the best because they're the easiest to inhabit. There's a movie out right now with with Halle Bailey, right? She always doing some satanic movie now, right? First she played one of the sirens in The Little Mermaid. Now she playing, it's either her or her sister. Now she in this movie called The Exorcist, right? With what's his name? Russell Crowe? Yeah, with Russell Crowe. Now the interesting thing with that is that he played in another movie called The Pope's Exorcist, right? Now what's crazy is that the movie he's in is called The Exorcist now is written by the son of the guy who did the son of the dude who did the first Exorcist movie. You see the ritual in that? And then in the Exorcist movie, you know, mad people died and shit like that. Because this is how these people are trying to tap in to this energy that they really wouldn't be able to get regular people to participate in if they didn't perceive that it was a movie. And what's interesting is, in the movie, he's an actor playing an exorcist in the movie. Then the whole movie get haunted, he get possessed, and they got to get a real priest who's played by Fraser's brother, David Hyde Pierce. So the amount of spiritual magic and all of the stuff, ceremonial magic that these dudes is doing, practical magic, the so-called practical effects, the craft, this is all the same stuff that they're using, which is why they wanted to make sure that we would always perceive as Moors specifically being dead. That's why this book is so great, because what it is it's a mirror into the Typhonian era and how we Moors were the ones that were able to capture and preserve all three epochs of time and use that to our advantage to actually make the world better, which is why we had to be so-called deposed, because technically we never really fell. What happened was we got absorbed because who? Our children, our amalgamated children were the ones that worked from the inside out to get us up out of here and to make us forget. So that way we would fall, right, amongst ourselves and never be able to reclaim what it was from the beginning, because we were the ones that represented the transposers through time. We were the ones that kept all of the ancient ways of how to perceive this energy and how to channel it and how to use it. Nobody else was doing that. Like, we wouldn't know nothing about Egypt or none of that shit if the Moors didn't exist today, if we didn't bring that into that, if we didn't translate all them ancient texts and all of that into the modern lexicon. Nobody would know about that. But then we would know anything. Yet these people today want to act like the reason why society is where it's at is because of us. And to an aspect, there's some truth to that in the context of us, again, falling from our noble nature and then establishing other people based upon what we lacked at the time to preserve it for us by implanting time codes into them to when and how this stuff would be redistributed back to us. That's why, like I said, the Freemasonic stuff and all of that stuff is so important to them today. Due to their lack of connection to the original source. That's why we are the source. You know what I'm saying? Which it all comes back into being. And they don't like that, because they can't get nothing off unless we co-sign it to show you the power that we still have. Why would they care so much about the so-called black vote? Why would they care? Niggas don't have no power, right? Niggas can't do nothing, right? Why would they be going so hard to make this person be perceived as something closer to them in order for us to co-sign them? Why would they care if so-called black people at the bottom and have nothing? Why is it so important that you vote for this person? And why is it so important that you see her as an element or an extension of yourself? Why? This is why. Because nothing runs without us being okay with it. That's why they got to constantly put you in a constant state of fear or constant idea that it's all going to fall and close in around you, or this is what they're going to do to you, and you don't have nothing, and you got to do all of that fear shit. That's all that Hereshef shit. Why are they always talking to me about the pyramids in Africa per se, when there's more pyramids over here than anywhere else in the world, of all different sorts, in pyramidal form, in trapezoid form, in mound form, in step pyramid form. Why was the original colors of the so-called Egyptian dynasty, first dynasty, red, white, and blue? Why is it so important for you to honor the so-called slave ships that didn't even happen like that? Because the very shape of it is intoning you to what they refer to as Jacob's ladder, which is actually a central nervous system going up the spinal column, which is the Djed pillar. We created an entire economy based on busting shit like this down when white folk wasn't doing nothing. We think the Da Vinci Code and all of this stuff came from. All that stuff came from what we was doing in the conscious community. People like Bobby and C. Freeman L. and Valentine and all of these people. There's no way you can physically pack people in a boat like this unless you putting them in cryo sleep. Like an alien, you stack up on top of each other in hibernation chambers. So once we understand that the slave ship is actually the central nervous system and how we're shipped back and forth within it, we see that it's all really just a step down version of these three time periods that I'm talking about. So we're at the last phase of the Draconian period, like I said, where they're basically trying to use as many Draconian methods to bust us down, to break through, to get us to break through, to wake up to the actual reality of what they have established around us, that in itself does not actually exist in the commonplace the way that we think it does. Because in my opinion, the way that we understand fear now in this modern time didn't even exist in the two epochs before that. People were willing to die for much less, because the perception of death was different. You understand? Because what it is, they actually got you fearing life. You see? They got you fearing life, really a life without them. That's why the sacred hoop, which is this, see, that the so-called American Indians or Aboriginals don't be showing, don't have no connection to, don't talk about none of this. Like, how y'all gonna be a nation of people and y'all ain't, and there's no so-called American Indian flags other than the Moorish ones that we be showing in class? These wild bands that they be trying to identify with, they didn't have no national flags. They didn't have none of that. The only ones that had national flags and all of that were the ones that were Moorish, of the old Moorish Empire. Because again, this represents the four corners or the epochs, right? Which is also an eye. which also represents the people, right? The black, the red, the yellow, the white. Where did we hear about that from? From the whole Yaqub thing, right? From the gene. Because the gods from the old era become the devils in the new. So what happened here in America? The new gods, who were the white people, wound up becoming the devil by the so-called black people. Ain't that what the Nation of Islam and them niggas was calling them? And now look what's happening with so-called white people. They're now treating them the way that the so-called original people was treated, right? They say white, male, and pale is stale, right? That's the whole thing right now. They're going in on Caucasian people now. The white males specifically. They treating them like they what? Like they used to treat the melanated people, right? That's a sign. They're showing you they about to choose up on them. Right? They're saying it's not that many of them no more, and they don't have the right to be this, and you got to do that. But instead of going back to you, what are they doing? They trying to put somebody else in your stead. They're trying to put somebody else up in there, whether it be the woman or the gays or right, anybody but the original man. But then what's happening in China? Excuse me, Japan. They want the original man to come out there and repopulate their whole culture. Think about that. The same so-called black man that the so-called black woman in America saying ain't this, ain't that, he ain't worth this and that, right? You got people, they trying to pay $75,000 a pop for your sperm. Why you think you got all of these Japanese niggas doing all of these black dances and trying to act like Sexy Red and all this other shit? What you think they doing that for? To entice you. Because they playing on the ignorance of the woman, because she is easily manipulated. All you got to do is cater to her ego. That's it. And then if it get too hectic, they're going to pull, or what you call it, they're going to try to restart it all. By trying to pull it into gravicissimus. We touched on that briefly yesterday, but I mean last week, but I'll show you again. When it get too hectic, the epochs, they start messing with it and they start trying to manipulate the temporal reality. This is how they were able to wipe out the Moorish Empire and all of that while it was still in play. All by agreeing not to acknowledge it. That's why I say indifference is a great superpower that original people don't use. Yeah, I'm not talking about all sisters. I'm talking about the ones I'm talking about. So to wipe out the last thing I showed you with the sacred hoop and what each sector meant, the four corners, right? Sprouting out of the great black rock, then you get what happened after the fall, and when they started to remake the history by switching up the calendar. The intention expressed in the text of this bull was to restore the calendar so that the seasonal events critical for the calculation of the Easter is Ishtar, for the Ishtar date. So that's the Obsidian time they're trying to bring it back to. You see? Easter Ishtar, Astarte, Hecate, okay, would be back in their proper places. See? that would be prevented from them being moved away again. The idea of reform as such in this otherwise mentioned, the bull identifies 3 necessary things for the correct determination of the Ishtar dates, the Easter dates: correct placement of the northern vernal equinox, correct identification of the 14th day of the moon. See? And I tell you that the obsidian time was telling the time by the moon, which is the crescent. See? Effectively full moon that happens on the next or after the vernal equinox on the first Sunday that follows the full moon. The first 2 items were the ones that received attention. The third, about choosing the next following Sunday, was not identified as causing any problem and was not further mentioned. By restore, Gregory meant 2 things. First, he adjusted the calendar so that the vernal equinox was near March 22nd, where it had been during the Council of Nicaea. See, wiping away the Irenaeus Afris Empire, the Moorish Empire. This was required removing 10 days adrift. Second, he made the tabular 14th day of the moon correspond with the full real moon, removing 4 days and more of drift. This would restore the dates of the Ishtar, Easter, to near where they were at the time of the Council of Nicaea. You see what I'm saying? When they first moved everything from the Typhonian into the Obsidian. You see? Excuse me, from the Obsidian into the Draco. The convenient truth of the idea resulted in the quickly agreed upon and ratified reformation of the Intergravissimus was adopted and distributed through Christendom, eventually resulting in the total adoption of the new Gregorian calendar. While we are certain to spend a great amount of time, effort, and money continuing to erase the abomination of days past from our collective history, you see that? It is with great gratitude that this letter is written. Your brotherhood, Freemasons, is to be commended for the valiant what? Sacrifice. Sacrifice in our time of need, for your ingenuity in devising a device, an appropriate solution to the resulting problems, and your compassion for understanding the frailty of our eternal tenuous disposition. You see, losing power is over for them. So what do? In closing, we have agreed to implement our new calendar and accept that the related daily difficulties of the effects that these changes will produce. Effective immediately in the year 1582 AD, the last day of the Julian calendar was Thursday, October 4th, and that the first day of the Gregorian calendar was Friday, October 14th. All references to anything that happened during these dates is from this day forward forbidden. To be clear, let history show these 10 days never happened. So when we say they took you from Africa to America with a pen, when they dispossessed the Moorish Empire by taking 500 years out and adding 1,000 years to their calendar, this is what we talk about. This is why you didn't know your history, and you could be right here and they could remake it and say everything different. Then use the Bible as the linchpin to bring it home, so that way, because you're under the Christendom, you've been christened dumb, deaf, and blind. You can't even go against it, because if you do, you're going against the God that you've been converted to. Islam? Didn't it say that? You saw that, right? Eternally losing power because they can't keep it up. Because them days actually happen. So imagine what happened within them times. Look. The Autochthon Moorish tribal names today and their origins after they were stripped off from the free national names out of willful ignorance and deceit. Treason in short. 836 BC equals 1196 BC, which equals 1416 AD, which then equals 1776. So 836 BC to us was 1196 to them. 1416 to us was 1776 to them. Chattel slavery officially began in what? 1779 and ended in 1865, which means that it lasted 85 years. You understand? So where's this 400 years of you being in bondage coming from? Where, if the country is 224 years old, how are you in bondage for 400 years? How were you in bondage before the country existed, when before the country existed, you was in the proper timeline and your people was running shit? Explain that to me. This is why the 85 represent the dumb, deaf, and blind, because they are the ones that fell under the time spell, the temporal spell of the intergravicissimus. This is why no other Moors and no anybody else is talking about this time manipulation that they've been working on us. It's a spell. What did they say in that movie? In Tenet, they said it was a temporal pincer move. It was a temporal pincer, where instead of manipulating time, they chose to slow it down and redistribute it and put it back in your face without you realizing that that's what it was, that that's what they was doing. Fake right, go left. So we just saw that they removed 10 days. So that 10 days, again, can be whatever they say it is. You see what I'm saying? 10, 100, 1,000. It's the same thing to them in terms of the manipulation. You understand? In terms of the manipulation of temporal timeline. I just showed you the equivalent dates. So again, we was in one time, they was in another, just like the Ethiopians is in one time right now, and we in another one. It's a spell. Look, the green pentagram, Pascal Vagnin from 1999. The green pentagram is actually a pentacle. The green pentagram shown in the national flag of Morocco is often called Solomon's seal. Its origin might date back to the Babylonian Empire, 2000 BC. The pentagram might have represented who? The goddess Ishtar, assimilated by the Muslims to Fatima. See? The prophet's daughter. On the Moroccan flags, the pentagram, which is the pentacle, represents the link between the god and the nation. Remember that Islam is the official religion in Morocco, and the king, descendant of the prophet, bears the title commander of the believers. You see what I'm saying? None of these gods, none of this stuff actually went anywhere. It's been here just under a different name in a different epoch in time, but all three epochs are basically one flowing into the other one. That's the issue. We got it twisted. We out here looking for something that don't exist.